cosmic check-in on the lunar eclipse in Virgo, which is happening on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, in a few days. My name is Phoebe, and I'm a Hellenistically trained astrologer with a mystical and embodied approach. It's my intention that this is a soft space for us to land together in these intense energies with some cosmic guidance and beautiful contemplation. So the lunar eclipse in Virgo is happening in a few days, and this is part of a greater story that we've been in for a couple of years now. We first started having eclipses in the Virgo-Pisces axis back in 2024, and just last year we had a very similar lunar eclipse with the South Node in Virgo on the 13th of March. So I recommend gently checking in if you can, if you have the space, to what has this greater storyline been for you since September 2024, when we began to have eclipses in this axis, and what is happening with the Pisces part of your chart and the Virgo part of your chart. And definitely, especially, what was releasing, what was naturally being let go of in March last year. We just had a solar eclipse, an annular solar eclipse in Aquarius on the 17th of February, which was the first part of this eclipse pairing. And this was a really new beginning energy. It was our first eclipse in Aquarius with the North Node in almost 20 years, whereas this one is a continuation, and because it's with the South Node and it's a lunar eclipse, it's more of a release energy, like a gentle cleansing away. Maybe not so gentle for some of us, depending on how personal it is in your own birth charts. Collectively, this is a really strong one because of all the other things that are happening at the same time. It is a total lunar eclipse, and I find it really interesting that it also happens to be a blood moon because of the way that the waves of light are working. The moon is going to appear to be really red. I always find it really interesting when that happens around really strong Mars energy, because with this eclipse we have Uranus in Taurus squaring Mars in Aquarius. When Uranus and Mars square each other, there's a forceful energy. It can be very uncomfortable, honestly, and I don't say things like that lightly when it comes to astrology, but I think that we're all going to be going through some level of shocking awakening as the great disruptor Uranus, with the fiery power of Mars being really omened, and that blood moon is, not subtle at all. It's also really important to be really careful around anything to do with driving or machinery during this transit, as there are more accidents. We also have Mercury retrograde, and I'm not one to sensationalize or be scared of Mercury retrograde. I actually really enjoy the invitation that Mercury retrograde offers, which is to slow down, reevaluate, review, reflect, tidy up the messy drawers, and wait for Mercury to begin their new cycle around the sun, because that's what Mercury retrograde is. It's simply Mercury slowing down, appearing to move backwards, closing a cycle before starting a new trip around the sun. So this is why it's said to not start new things or make big decisions during Mercury retrograde, as it's going against the grain of the natural flow of energies. This one, however, because of all the intensity that is happening around it, and because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, where this lunar eclipse is taking place, this Mercury retrograde is really strong energetically. It's also happening in Pisces, and Pisces is opposite Virgo, part of the same axis, And also Saturn and Neptune just left Pisces in the last few weeks, a really, really big energy as they're both slow moving planets. And also Mercury does not like to be in Pisces. Mercury is in their fault and their detriment in Pisces. You know, Mercury is the planet of thought and communication and connecting with people and transportation and technology. And Pisces is very dreamy and very liminal and creative and artistic. So much beauty can happen with Mercury in Pisces, which I will speak to more. But there is a dissonance there. It's a more difficult energy for us to work with. So with all of that being said, I think it's really important that we really consciously work with this Mercury retrograde, which is happening until the 20th of March, plus a couple of weeks of shadow period after that. So, you know, really, really aligned with this current eclipse season that we are in. And definitely this eclipse is highlighting a lot of the natural endings and new beginnings that we're all moving through because of this really strong martial energy. You know, squares are the nature of Mars. Mars squaring Uranus in this case. This is actually the last eclipse that we're having with Uranus and Taurus in our lifetimes. Uranus is currently hanging out at 27 degrees of Taurus, and by the time we have another eclipse, Uranus will finally be in Gemini. I'm really looking forward to that on a personal level as a Taurus rising. I've been really going through Uranian initiations for the last 8 years, and you know, Uranus does not like to be in Taurus. We don't have dignities for the modern planets, but you know, looking at the planet of revolution, freedom and progression and innovation and disruptances and awakenings versus Taurus, which really craves stability and earth and rootedness and you know, this real like strong and steady wins the race energy. It's been hard for all of us. So this is something else I really recommend at looking at. Where is Taurus in your chart? What house has Uranus been really, really shaking up in your life for the past 8 years? This eclipse is feeling like an exclamation mark for us to look at that, because there's just a few more weeks. Really, it's the 26th of April that Uranus is getting out of Taurus for the last time, going into Gemini. Really recommend tuning in with what is the Taurian transformation that Uranus has been schooling you through for the past 8 years or so. This eclipse is happening in Virgo, and Virgo is such a beautiful sign. I think very misunderstood. You know, I think a lot of people have Virgos in their lives and it's like, oh, they're like really neat and clean and meticulous, but there's so many deeper layers to Virgo. Virgo represents the goddess and is actually in evolutionary astrology really, really associated with Inanna, with the initiation of the goddess going into the underworld, very associated with rites of passage and initiation. And you know, this is something deeper that you'll notice about the strong Virgo people in your life. There's actually a real tenacity to Virgo energy. They're here for initiations because they're here to be of service. This is the, you know, highest expression of Virgo, being the medicine person, being the guide, being the lighthouse in these times. Virgo is really, really associated with nature, with the herbs and the plants and magic with the plants. And because of being ruled by Mercury, there's this real meticulousness and attention to detail. The shadow side of Virgo is to do with that meticulousness going too far, with perfectionism, and with being critical to the point of, you know, self-demise potentially, pushing people away, pushing opportunities away, and definitely procrastination. Being so stuck in the details, so stuck in the mind, you know, always asking questions, getting too into the details rather than zooming out to the bigger picture, that nothing happens at all. And I really feel, you know, with all of the themes synthesizing together as they always do, Saturn and Neptune finally out of Pisces, but Mercury retrograding there. There's a little bit of unfinished business. There's some closure that we're all going to receive over the next few weeks. It's definitely time for us all to be of service. And how can we get out of our own way to do so? How can we stop asking too many questions and really trust our path? And I feel like this Mars-Uranus square, this theme of being like called to action overnight, like, okay, this is it, this is the insight, I know what needs to leave now for me to get out of my own way and be of service for the highest good of all. I really feel that that is a strong collective energy that is happening here, and I'm really, really excited for it. Because Pisces is so co-present, obviously, you know, with every full moon, and a lunar eclipse is essentially a supercharged full moon, really bringing us into a new long-term cycle, not just for a moon cycle, but definitely the next 6 months. And in this case, you know, it's part of that wider story from September 2024 all the way up to February 2027. There is always with the full moon that the sun is opposing the moon. So we've got the moon in Virgo and the sun is currently in Pisces. We also have that Mercury retrograde in Pisces, but we also have Venus in Pisces in her exaltation. And Venus in Pisces with Mercury co-present, there's this beautiful communication that's been happening with Jupiter in his exaltation in Cancer the last few weeks. It's like there is so much hope in this chart too, despite the discomfort, despite the call to a bit of a darker initiation that we're all being ushered into at the moment. And this to me is just screaming, make art. Don't worry about the details, just make it, just do it. If that means singing, cooking, painting, playing an instrument, whatever it is, the time is now. We are in a time of collective chaos. It is, you know, the times that we're in. It is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. So much of what we thought to be steadfast and true is crumbling down before our eyes. And there's this feeling like there's very little stability at the moment to stand on. We have to really hold each other close in this time. And we all really need to embody the magician in the tarot, or you might say the alchemists. How we do that is by putting beauty into the world, by making art, by sharing joy, by choosing to be in true pleasure, embodied pleasure, even when the darkness is feeling really consuming. It is essential that we bring ourselves back to putting beauty into the world and to know that we're never supposed to do it alone. Pisces is the sign of unity consciousness. Pisces is the sign that shows us that there is no separation between who I am and who you are, and the sky and the earth and all that is. A lot of people that I'm speaking to at the moment are experiencing what they are calling bone deep tiredness. And I've been really experiencing this as well. And last night I was thinking about the themes of this eclipse, and I was thinking a lot about Pisces and that unity consciousness that we are all one. And what is happening to anybody in the world is happening to all of us. And I really feel like those of us who are sensitive souls are carrying so much at the moment. And it is just so key that we are having pleasure and creativity and fun and joy. And that is the harmonization, that the ripples go out into the collective, and it's a really important part of the work that we're here to do. Something else that I find really interesting about this particular eclipse is the Sabian symbol on which it is occurring. I only very recently found out about Sabian symbols. If you don't know what they are, as they're pretty niche, they are a system that was channeled in 1925. It was a collaboration between Mark Edmund Jones, an astrologer, and Elsie Wheeler, a very famous psychic medium at the time. And they took every degree of the zodiac, and Elsie, an incredible visionary and seeing woman, channeled a piece of poetry and these kind of different themes for each degree of the zodiac. I've only been working with these a little bit, but they are blowing my mind. So this one is happening at 12 degrees of Virgo, and for the Sabian symbols, you go 1 degree up. So the phrase of this Sabian symbol is: a powerful statesman overcomes a state of political hysteria. I just thought this was so interesting, because in every eclipse, you know, the ancient astrologers said that eclipses herald the rise and fall of leaders. And with Neptune and Saturn together at the 0 and 1st degree of Aries at the moment, there's been this really big theme of spiritual leadership coming in, becoming a spiritual warrior. And what I really felt like this was speaking to, because this Sabian symbol is about leadership, and it's about being calm in the midst of chaos and crisis, and it really speaks to propaganda and, you know, kind of orchestrated chaos. What I was feeling as I was tuning in with it this morning is that we all have the potential through the initiation of this eclipse season to be steadfast within the chaos and to be those embodied pillars of strength that is so needed for the harmonization in these times. I do feel, however, as well though, that this is an omen to more chaos coming. You know, we've been getting little tastes of this. I mean, absolutely huge tastes as well in the last few weeks with the news that's happening. And I think so many of us are like, okay, witnessing the horrors and really being with it somatically, and, you know, moving through it on personal levels and holding our communities through it and grieving when needed. And then also there's this really deep question of why are they releasing all of this? Why are they showing all of this? What is going on in the background? What are they trying to distract us from? And so I really feel that this omen of the eclipse at 12 degrees of Virgo with this Sabian symbol is telling us, be a pillar of strength. Really do what we need to do to stay stable and well amongst all of this propaganda energy that's happening. And, you know, coming back to the beauty, coming back to the rays of hope that are within this chart as well, with Venus and Jupiter and even Mercury retrograde in Pisces, despite the challenges that are there, there's always hope. And we all came here for a specific role in these times, and this is what astrology helps us with. Astrology is a really powerful North Star when we're feeling lost, and these times are so confusing, they're so overwhelming. So I love to think of astrology as these very special mystical maps that help us when we are feeling that we need a little bit more guidance. So I really hope that this landed well with you. The questions that I really recommend asking yourself are: how can I support myself as much as possible to be calm in the storm? How can I let go of self-critique and procrastination to step into the service that I'm here to be of? How can I embody pleasure in a world that is trying to take it away from us? Remembering that pleasure is our birthright and is a completely natural part of nature, and it reverberates out. It's never ever selfish. It's actually incredibly important in these times. So on the day of the eclipse, Tuesday 3rd of March, I really recommend having as much spaciousness as possible. The eclipse is going exact at 11:58 a.m. in Ireland, GMT, so you can check where that is happening for you, wherever you are. Really beautiful, even if you're, in work or whatever, commuting. In that moment, just imagine that there's a bubble of light around you, that the energies are washing over you, and that you can trust that the divine is giving us the recalibration that is needed. If you are able to be at home and cozy, that is really beautiful. I recommend lighting a candle, being at your altar, and writing down anything that is coming through. This is going to leave us better than it found us in whatever way is needed. Really, really notice what is not working. We're going to be shown what is not working, what needs to be released, what are the ways that we're holding ourselves back with self-critique, with procrastination. Habits can fall away as well really easily with South Node eclipses in Virgo. Maybe there's a bad habit, maybe you want to start looking after your gut health more, something like that, but just remember to do it with so much compassion. Virgo can take that too far very easily. It's all about compassion, being of service, trusting that you're here for these times for a reason. If you would like to have a one-on-one reading with me, I'd absolutely love to do that for you. I'll leave all the links below. Thank you so much for watching. I really want to show up on YouTube more with these videos, so I'd really appreciate any support, comments, likes, all the rest of it. And yeah, I'm sending you so many blessings. I hope that this eclipse season is amazing for you, and that you are able to step into the highest service that you're here for with so much embodied joy and pleasure. Slán.